All right. So,
Let's
getting
do it.
started. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
I was like, okay, are you gonna
Very
start,
happy you're here. Yeah, I'm starting. All
Fabio?
right. Hello, everyone. Very happy you're here with us right now. We have an amazing guest today. His last name is Hart, so I'm gonna say him. I'm just gonna say David. So David's here
Yakobovitch.
with
It's not that
us.
difficult.
Kristen, you
Yeah,
got it on the first guess. How was that happen?
Jakubovich. Is that from Russia? Where's that from?
There is so much heritage to unpack in that last name, and I think we could use a genetic sorting algorithm to discover that.
All right. That will be in the next episode. Uh, Okay, so David's here with us to talk about learning data science. This is a new and amazing field that we're all very happy to be in right now. And we're going to discuss several things on learning data science, what should you be doing to learn, to how to start, and stuff like that. So, again, if you have any questions, just type them in the Q&A. So, David, thank you very much for being here with us right now.
Fabio, Kristen, thanks both for having me.
Yeah, can you give us just a little bit about your background and sort of what you're doing in terms of education and just in general, sort of where you sit in the space?
Yeah, so thanks again so much for having me and for everyone, whether you're tuning in live or to the recording. I'm actually in New York City and been involved in tech since back in 2010. Originally got started in the actuarial science space and was working on Fortran and
Yes.
COBOL, yes, represent on IBM mainframes for
Oh no,
those.
I was not. I was
I
not.
know, but it's it
Sorry,
was
2010 wasn't that long ago. I should
2010, right? It was just
Fortran
9 years
in like
ago. So
2001.
oh my goodness. So, I was doing that and, studied finance and studied statistics and started moving into more technical code. And around then, people started saying there might be a cloud, there might be data that could be automated, there might be scripts that has simpler code than C++ or Java. And just so happened that that language was Python, and I started to move into that. So the one fun fact I share with people, they say, how did you get into data science? I say I accidentally fell into that path, started in the actuarial stats realm, and over the last 9 years have evolved in that space, following that whole progression, right? Going from data analysts to business intelligence analysts to dashboarding to predictive to consulting to client facing to a lot of things. And where that's led me up to a lot has been in the education space. So Krista and I both do some great work together with our clients. And for those who don't know, I'll be meeting Fabio in person in a few weeks in Monterey. I have a big passion for tech, for future of workforce, and future of skills. And I think us being here today is such an important conversation, really for many reasons. And one of the primary ones that shocked me was today I read a research article that came out, and there's a lot of things that always come out onto the news. But this one was from an independent research organization in the US called the Brookings Institute. Why am I bringing up Brookings? I bring it up because they came out with research that said, meet the millions of young adults who are out of work. Meet the millions of young adults who are out of work. And that was in the news today. On the heels of two other big announcements, right? Google disbanding its AI ethics board and Trilogy getting bought by 2U for $750 million. So
Cool.
I think it's cool, but I think it's three things that we can unpack. And I think these are some of the themes we can talk about, throughout today's episode is on one hand, education is hot and tech is cool and people are learning and they're learning online and there's money and people are getting high paying jobs. On the second end, how ethical is the work that's being done. And then the third end, how many people are really getting jobs. So I think there's a lot to talk about, and these are things we'll cover today. And I noticed there's lots of cool questions coming up throughout this live recording. So feel free to chime in on the systems, and we're glad to answer those. So anyway, that's who I am, and let's dig in.
Okay.
Oh my God, David, there was so much that you just said right there that really resonated with me, because of course we've talked a lot about course development, and it's always sort of been that we're on the same page about how things should be structured in order, and hearing your progression through your career was very similar to mine, and it's like, oh, that's why we're in the same camp. In addition to the recent news that you've been talking about, since we are talking about learning data science tonight, the news that just came out in the last week or two about DataCamp, because of course that was somebody that I always recommended people go to. And so if you don't know, DataCamp and a DataCamp executive was sexually harassing someone in front of other people. They didn't really go.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep. Have you not been on Twitter?
Yeah, so I'll jump in here, and for those who are here, so just for some backdrop. So the ed tech industry has been rife with a scandal this week, and DataCamp, for some of you who know, have been studying code there. I have a lot of friends who are course developers there. I actually had several colleagues who were executives at DataCamp as well. And the short of it, Kristen, I think you could probably speak better to some of it, and then I'll jump more into it also. But.
No, I'm just, because, I'm sure.
Let me just speak to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that the CEO of DataCamp sexually harassed and molested a female staffer during the Me Too movement. And during that movement, no reprisal happened to the CEO of DataCamp. And it was hidden. It was uncovered. People were let go. Literally, was this, if I understand, I don't know if I should name and shame, right? But people can everyone
knows how to Google.
Sexually molested and harassed a female staffer. And a lot of employees left DataCamp, and they've been not treating a lot of their staff great. And so why did we bring this up? It seems that it's very past the heyday of Me Too. We've had Wonder Woman, we've had Captain Marvel, we've had these movies that brought, female empowerment to life. We have Women Who Code, some really big conferences even going on in New York in that space. But it's not about necessarily we need to take actions and have results here. And that's one part, saying a statement. There was in Quartz the other day, they said how executives are recovering from the Me Too movement. But I don't think that's the right way to think about it. I think it's about who do you want to be associated with your values, and who do you want to learn from. And when you have the choice of, do I go to DataCamp or O'Reilly, right? Who has been the leader and progressive there, and supporting women scientists and researchers for many years at Strata conferences and at their Python development conferences, that's been O'Reilly, right? And so it's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted, right? Because their pay model is that course creators don't get paid unless you finish the course. So of course, all these people are paying to take courses through DataCamp, but the person who created that intellectual property may not see much money from it. But at the same time, they're great educational resources. There are, is in terms of starting from the beginning and going all the way through, not to throw heavy promotion, but it is, something that you struggle with, is that, if somebody's learning from the beginning, that was a good spot to go to.
Yeah, but do you think that this, I know this is a very hard truth to hear, but it's not, it's his fault, and he should be charged with with the law with that. But I mean, does it?
He should step down and resign. So
Yeah,
here's why. So
but I
data
mean,
camp.
does it change the platform for learning for you? I mean, like, does it really change
It
for
does,
you?
because I have
Would
several
you
friends.
recommend people going there?
I don't recommend a single person go to DataCamp. I have friends who built courses there who have literally just made a few $100s. And DataCamp's basically
That's
pocketing
crazy.
the money. They're kind of going that the traditional I wouldn't call it iTunes, Spotify model, but similar to that you pay very little to course creators. It's very different from Lynda, which is now LinkedIn. Traditionally they'll give a very nice advance in royalties, but I just think there's a lot of problems with the company, and I don't want us to linger on it too much, but I think it's worth noting, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people in the past couple of weeks, that you have to take a moral high ground, right? And not even just that, like if you actually put them side by side, DataCamp and O'Reilly, and they both basically cost $40 a month, right? They basically cost $40 a month for either subscription. Hands down, O'Reilly gives you better material.
Yeah. I mean, so, because I'm sure we all have been, but, I was approached to teach a data camp course. And then when I saw the contract, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, no way I'd ever sign this.
No, but
you already went on your, you like said it completely how you felt it. So like, whatever, we'll just make this a real data science live. But
I mean, but it's very hardcore that you have to, I mean, you're only paid if people finish the courses, because I mean, if you go and take a look on all the platforms that are creating MOOCs, I don't think that more than 50% of the people is finishing the courses. I mean, most of them are just getting there. They're seeing some slides. They're learning from the course.
Fabio, let's be real. It's not even
the certificate programs, the diplomas and stuff. People sign up, and there you're paying real money, a real investment, and you're seeing similar completion rates.
And Fabio, on Coursera and edX and these platforms, the completion rate, it's not near 50%. Statistics came out from 2018, between 6 to 8% completion rate on courses. And these are courses that people are paying money for.
Yeah.
You're listening on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Data Science Live. We're hearing that students are thinking, as the industries are changing, as the workforce is shifting, how do you stay relevant? And
are these programs keeping up?
I got a text
you
message.
Want to stay relevant, but are the programs relevant too? It's like twofold.
Are the programs relevant? And I think part of that is it's a text message from a new podcast I got earlier from one of my buddies who used to work for IBM Watson. And I just got this 30 minutes ago. BBC just came out with a post, will AI kill development? Right? Will AI kill development? And development means programming. Like, are programmer jobs going to be relevant in 10 or 15 years? I think the answer is yes. I think it's going to evolve. And this is part of some of the questions we're seeing here today. What are the skills or knowledge that you need to be a data scientist that's being future-proofed, right? And if you're someone who came from the COBOL generation, let's call it, anywhere.
2010 was not the COBOL generation.
Yeah, that's not true, David. You're lying here. I mean, 2010 was not a COBOL. It was like the Java generation, something like that, but not COBOL.
Yeah, the Java generation ran until 2018, right? Now it's the Python generation.
Yeah.
I think anyone can get into it, and there's so much noise out there, right? So much noise in the market, and people unfortunately go on the path of, let me go to the MOOCs, right? Let me go to the Coursera and the edX, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to be a data scientist. But, I think the thing, Kristen, that you might have some thoughts on is the data scientist today really all that different from the predictive modeler of 2015 or 2012?
Well, so when I hear you talking about the news about AI taking away, jobs, in essence, that's what you're talking about. It's since, I started in industry in 2010 as well. And, you know, things have just gotten cooler and more exciting, and the tools evolve and the data gets larger and more interesting, and we're capturing data on more interesting things, and we're able to do cooler things. And, you know, so do I think that in the future, like a lot of this stuff is going to be automated? Like, are our regular retention models, acquisition models, things that are cookie cutter and are the same to every business going to be automated? I'd guess yes. Do I worry about my job? Hell no. Like, there are always going to be cool and interesting high value projects that will increase, that will have like a return on investment. And it's going to be the people that are able to really think about outside of the box and identify those problems that need to be solved and then solve them, you know, because there's no machine that's going to be able to automate the intricacies of these businesses. Like, yes, you know, the simple things that the models that every business has, can that be automated? Yes. But like, you know, just like Google is changing its algorithm on who ranks top every couple of months, you know, there's going to be plenty of work to develop new algorithms, to tune them, to make changes as the economy changes, right? There's never going to be one single solution that is going to like live on and be the be all end all. And so I'm going to stop talking there because I forgot what the original question was.
No, but I think that, I mean, what we're talking here is important because, I mean, there's a lot of people that maybe listen to us and they're like saying, okay, so I'm going to go to these platforms and I'm going to learn. But I mean, there's not a clear path for a lot of people. I mean, this is one of the things that I think one of the most, the questions I get the most on LinkedIn is what's a good path to learn data science? And it's changing all the time for me, that answer. And I think we should discuss for a while. I mean, what do you think is a good path for people to learn? I mean, what should they do to really learn and be a successful data scientist?
You know, there's many paths. And for those who are here right now and later on, I'll share the link, but I have a GitHub that I put a lot of top O'Reilly books and other great resources that can sequentially help you transition into that field. But it's not for the faint of heart, right? You know, again, I see the repetitive theme happening today. Okay, we joke about COBOL, but all seriousness there, can someone who came from COBOL and these older languages that have been around transition? Well, there's two interesting things I'd like to unpack there. One, do you want to transition? And two, what are the career paths if you do or don't transition? There was a Wall Street Journal expose that came out last year. It said, meet the COBOL engineers making $250 an hour. There are so few people left who know COBOL and so many systems that run on it that there are engineers retired in their 60s flying around the United States and the world to keep systems online. Because in 2018, less than a third of Fortune 500 companies were off-premise. They're all on-premise, all on their own solutions. So the question is, again, you know, where are you in your career today? And to make that transition, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And if you're 20, you might want to switch. If you're nearing retirement, sounds like that COBOL gig is pretty good.
I wish I had that COBOL gig.
So, but one question here, David. So you mentioned you have got GitHub with some resources, stuff like that. So if someone will ask you right now, hey, I'm just an engineer, or I'm someone who's working in a different field, how can I transition? I mean, I do want to transition because I like it. I don't know, maybe they're not entirely sure why they want to transition, but they want to do it. What will be your suggestion for them to get started?
I think computer science is for all. We have an initiative in New York led by Fred Wilson, by the venture capital firm, about CS for all. I think anyone can pick up coding. I think it's a good time to learn new languages. And it's important to pick a language that is leading the industry. And that language is Python. I would go so far to say that, yes, you could learn R, yes, you could learn Java and Scala and C++ and these other programming languages. But at the end of the day, the one where people are hiring and the one that is growing is Python. That's the one people should go after.
Yeah, when I looked at the data on Indeed.com, I had written an article where I did a search and just typed data scientist, and then I typed data scientist and Python. So it, and I think it was 77% of the jobs said Python for data science titles, and 60% said R, and 55% were Python or R. I also hear people talking about Rust. Does anyone know anything about Rust?
So there's these other languages and
Ruby,
Rust.
stuff like that.
I've heard, I've seen people talk about Julia, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm interacting with the cool kids on Reddit, but they're like, oh, this is going to be the new big thing.
That's right. I say stay away from the shiny object syndrome. Oh, the new Julia, all the new language. It's changing so fast. So that's why I say pick Python. And you know what else? It doesn't get talked about much in the industry, but learn SQL or SQL. However you pronounce it, you got to learn it. If you're interviewing for a data job, whether it's an analyst or a scientist, the Facebook, the Google, the FANGs, or even consulting companies, sometimes SQL, the SQL is more important than Python on getting started.
Oh, John, I see that you're 60 plus and you're a COBOL guy and you're looking to make a change to data science.
Oh my gosh, John, my heart goes out to you. My dad is 67. He originally was working on mainframes, so that's kind of where I got in there. And he learned how to program signal detection on noise and ambient sound around the room in Python and Raspberry Pi. Learned a lot, but he decided it wasn't going to be a career changer for him. My goodness, my heart goes out to you, but I'll say if COBOL's been your breadwinner, dude, double your rate. If you're charging $80 an hour, double it to $160 an hour, take it, launch a consulting firm.
Can you change to data science? Absolutely you can.
But one weird question right now.
You
Can you do data science with COBOL?
I don't think there's a strong enough API to support modern packages, and so that would have to be created. It would probably run faster in COBOL than it would run in Python anyway, quite honestly.
You'd have to just do so much work.
Yeah, it's why should you reinvent the wheel,
Yeah, that's true.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
If I were me, I'm saying this to everyone. If you're 60 plus and you know COBOL, double your rate. 80 an hour, make it 160. 125, make it 250. You'll land more business. And COBOL's not going anywhere.
No, and it's not only there. I mean, here in Mexico, there are a lot of banks. I mean, I've been working with banks here. They're all running COBOL on their mainframes. And there's a floor of people, the rich people are just programming with COBOL. I mean,
I can't believe we're talking about COBOL in Data Science Live.
No, but it's an important topic because, there's a lot of people that really want to transition. Maybe they're there and maybe they're thinking, should I be learning something different? Should I stay here? I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's great if you know the language. Is great if you can raise your, how much you win for knowing that old but important language. But you should be learning too. If you have the time, you should be learning new things too.
If I was 60 years old and I knew COBOL, but I really wanted to learn, a modeling and I found it fascinating, I would absolutely learn it and make a jump, because that's just me personally. But
so David,
but I'm
you
a
mentioned,
hopper.
And so, it's great that we talked about that, but I want to also talk about, moving into data science careers, right? And for those who are tuning in for the first time, I also have an AI podcast called Humain, Humain. And Kristen's actually one of my guests, so a lot of synergies here. And these topics I talked about, AI governance, Work 2.0, conditional basic income, right? These are big topics, and they all relate to Trilogy's acquisition, Google's AI ethics board being disbanded, and unemployed millennials. And, whoever you are listening today, it all relates to you. And the question is, what is your pathway, right, into data science? Is it a strategy like... we talk often of universal basic income. Maybe that's an interesting topic right now to talk about. Norway did an experiment on that, universal basic income, right? 2,000 euros a month for everyone. Let's see if your life improves. So they kicked it off a couple years ago. The results just came back in this summer. They said all the people had more money. They had less stress, less disease. They're more relaxed. But at the end of this universal basic income experiment, guess what happened? No more people had jobs after than they had before. No one was incentivized to get into industry. And that's where this new topic has come from, called conditional basic income. This is where you'll get the 2,000 euros, assuming you are attempting to meet milestones to move into industry. I think it's an interesting concept that we're seeing companies now like Lambda School employ that, with income share agreements where, don't worry, don't pay us now. If you get the job, you pay us later, but we want to help you. Future of work. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a very interesting thing. And I know some people here in Mexico that are doing stuff like that. There's a company called 01 or 01 in English that they did something like that for women in data science. They launched a program, and it's gonna be free for women. And when they had a job, they can start paying. So and I think that's very interesting because a lot of people here, not all the time learning is cheap or free. So when we have these initiatives of people just taking a bet on people, I think that's it's like a bet, because you don't know if they're going to deliver in the end. You just wish they'll deliver in the future. So I think we need more stuff like that. We need like the governments and the big universities to bet more on people and not create this big loan. Like these loans and loans and loans. Just say, hey, maybe we're going to trust you. We know that you're going to get a great job. And when you have the time and you have, and when you're relaxed and when you're creating stuff and changing the world, then you can pay me. That's better.
The challenge.
Yeah, it's so hard though, because, I'm thinking about Andreas Kritz's post on LinkedIn today. And, my reply was around, I don't remember exactly what the post was, but it just made me think of all of the different notation that we use. Like if you're coming from a stats or math background versus a programming background versus a business background, we use different terminology to mean the same things. And so people are learning the same things and still having difficulty communicating, right? Because there's all this, you can learn these things and then still have difficulty reading other papers that are using different notation. And it's sort of, special to our industry or to tech in general, right? Because like, if you know English, you can like typically read in English. And so I don't know, like, I think mentors are so important to being successful. And I think that, if there was a way to make mentors more available, we could the learning rate would be exponential.
And there are organizations doing that. One of them, they're, Y Combinator backed, called Sharpest Minds. So they do something in that space where you pick up a mentor, work with them on a weekly call, and it's actually kind of that income share agreement model. It's free, right? Unless you get a job, right? So it's incentivizing both. I agree on that mentorship.
I like that. Yes, I'm glad I
Right?
brought that up now, because that's where I like to hear things going.
It's so interesting, and it's a win-win, because then your mentor's incentivized and you're incentivized, and it's I think if everyone's aligned, right, business-wise, then we see that. And mentorship is twofold. One, it's actually like, yes, let me get the coaching, the technical expertise, but it's also the mentorship to build the portfolio projects and the capstones so that you can land that data science dream job. Now, that link I shared earlier, the GitHub, I'll reshare that again. And, second time's the charm, because I have on there an initiative called the Data Science Standards. It's a work in process initiative, basically saying if you are launching a capstone project, this is a tried and true method for you to build something significant that then when you're in the interview, you can talk and you can know what you're talking about, and you've done the entire workflow. So I think mentorship includes building, not just having the mentorship.
Yeah. And can we talk to Tim for a second? Because my work experience is in materials science, research and development in aerospace. I have extensive background in statistics, probability, linear regression, design of experiments, reliability, Weibull statistics, time series analysis. I've used my statistics background in my past work experience. What would be a good way for me to transition into data science? I'm 64 years old. Tim, so all you need to do is update your resume effectively, and if you don't know SQL, learn SQL, and if you don't know, I don't know what tools you're using or what your favorite tool is, but you have all the theory down that you need.
Yeah.
You just need to have a tool or two. So if you don't have SQL or you don't have basic Python or whatever, you just need to get literally, it'll only take you a month to learn SQL. And get some feet under you in terms of Python, and that would obviously be a longer learning journey. But just get your wings, put it on your resume, market yourself effectively, really look at what the job descriptions are asking for, and talk about how what translates to that, and you've already got it, I don't know. Does anyone else have thoughts on that? That's my thought.
I think he's there, and if you're in material science R&D, one of my clients is in the material space, and they have so many researchers who are now in these divisions of AI and synthetic data design and designing these digital experiments. You might aerospace, right? That industry is hot right now, whether you're thinking about Blue Origin, whether you're thinking about SpaceX, whether you're thinking about even what Naveen Jain is doing. There's a lot of companies out there innovating there. Or, you can go directly to Fermilab and CERN, and do work that they're doing with particles. There's a lot in the material space. And especially if you're in the U.S., there's so many laboratories, right? I know Idaho National Laboratory, Fermilab near Chicago. It's interesting to decide, the great thing is data science can be applied to any industry. It can be applied anywhere in the world, and it can impact your company and drive more revenue and better results. The question is, do you want to work for your current company? Do you want to join a different company? Or do you want to launch your own venture? And with it, it's all possible,
Yeah, but one of the things that we are maybe reading here in the comments too and in the chat is that, I know people are interested on getting data science, and we've been talking about CS for all and SQL and Python. If you have no idea how to program, if you're completely lost in the programming space, should you be learning Python as a first language? Should you be
Pick up SQL first. SQL is much easier to read. Then you build the confidence, and then from there go into Python.
Yeah, and then I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are wondering right now. Okay, so Python is a huge language. I mean, why should I be learning from Python? What do you say for that, David?
There's two schools of thought. Some people say, oh, just pick up the data packages and the machine learning packages. But if you're going to go into these interviews with companies, not only are they going to test you in SQL, and not only are they going to test you in the machine learning stats in Python, they're going to see, can you work with none of the packages and actually create things? And
sometimes it's not even hard. It's just like you need to define a function, and it's going to include a logic statement, a loop, and whatever, and return something. Like, it's nothing crazy, but you have to understand the basics.
Yeah, and it's not, and again, it depends on the company. If you're doing more a research-oriented role, or a role where you're having to do pipelines with automation, maybe you'll have to use the base level package. But you might be in a position that's using these automated machine learning pipelines, like known as the auto ML, this new term that's come about in the last couple of years. And you might just be, drag and drop and see your results and present to a client, and work with other technical engineers to support you there. I think the big fear that a lot of people are thinking about in data science is, wow, it must be super, super technical. And I would say it could be, depends on the organization and the role, because a lot of tools are coming out, just like the SPSSs and those tools where it's very click and drag, and that's both good or not good depending on your school of thought, but it's enabling. At the end of the day, it's enabling work 2.0. It's enabling more people to participate in the data science conversation and to drive results. Even if someone does not understand eigenvectors, they can actually drive results with machine learning. Should you learn it? Maybe, but you don't have to, which is empowering for those wanting to get into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a stack of knowledge.
PCA and dimensionality reduction without understanding eigenvectors.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask me, hey, what should I know from algebra and calculus to be a good data scientist? I think that depends on what you want to do. I mean, there's chances that you will be programming, and I think it's good if you know all these technologies. I mean, from the inside, and you're able to read the papers, stuff like that. But that shouldn't be a stopper. I mean, you should understand some of these things you're doing. That's great, and that's the ultimate goal. But you can start doing data science and doing machine learning without being an expert. And as David said, I mean, you may not, have an idea what's an eigenvector, but you can still do machine learning with that. I mean, you don't need to be an expert on doing derivatives or being able to calculate by hand how to minimize a cost function. And that's not the most important part of your job. The most important part of your job is when you're adding value to the company while modeling predictive algorithms and while doing their best to really solve business problems. Then, if you have the time, you can learn more stuff about that.
Yeah, but it's hard, right? It's hard to look at it from a different perspective, because I got, the bachelor's degree in math, and then I did the master's degree in statistics. And so, I wonder, can you really fully understand, the relationships between probability distribution functions and cumulative distribution functions, and what's happening? I can look at a function and sort of intuitively understand what's going on. Or if you say we're finding the min of this argument, I know what that means. And so if you don't have the it's hard to say exactly how much of that you have to understand to be able to fully grasp what's going on.
So what's interesting, being in New York, there's a lot of agencies out here, right? You have the WPPs, the YNR, you have Ogilvy, Havas, all these agencies. And a lot of times agencies come up in that, oh, help us out. We're the brands, we're the Mars, we're the Toyota, and we need to understand our data. But are they expecting the agencies to code data science? Not necessarily, but they are looking for insights and trends. And if those insights and trends can be done through dashboards and through tools on, Google Cloud, Azure, or AWS, it's the same solution. And the reason I say that is if you're moving into the data field, it depends on where you're moving and how code-oriented or application-oriented that will be. And you can choose based on your preference if you very much do enjoy being hands-on code 80% of the time, then to target roles like that. Or if you're looking for something that's more business and sales and client-facing and presentation, there are roles for that as well.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I always forget is when I'm talking, I'm assuming that everybody who wants to get into data science wants to be coding and building cool models, which is what I wanted to do. And I often forget that, a company needs to have dashboarding in place before they can, and like stakeholders need to have access to data before they can effectively leverage ML. And they need to have, be able to do hypothesis testing and actually like design and analyze those correctly before, there's like these building blocks that are sort of, you could go and invest in ML before you have these other foundational things in place, but is that really the best way to go? And a lot of companies, we talk about AI and we talk about all the cool things that like the top tier companies are doing or the most advanced, in this space are doing. But the truth is that there's a lot of companies out there where their data is still siloed, and a lot of the work is in data governance, in helping them move their like broken data infrastructure to a, on-premise solution to a cloud solution that like it's not broken, and the areas that you can get into are just so vast.
I think the areas being so vast also goes to how the industry has changed from using mainframes to using local computers to having now server farms of the cloud computing. That goes to one of the questions about why is big data no longer talked about anymore? Why is big data no longer as noisy? Because now there's all the processing to process it. So whether you have 100 lines or 1 trillion lines, you're able to work with it. You just have to scale up your computing. And you can still use the same SQL queries or the same Python queries. And so that was more, big data was, I guess you could say, the hot topic of the year from probably 2012 to 2015. But with the cloud now, it's all data science and AI. That's the direction.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think right now, if you are able to learn Python and SQL, then it's very easy to transition to stuff like Spark or Dask or this platform that are for big data. And you have to learn a few more like APIs, and then you're good to go with 1 petabyte of data. I mean, I think one of the most interesting news of the day was the discovery and this picture of the black hole that we were all waiting for. And those were like 5 petabytes of data they got. And it's just a lot of data. And there's a cool image from a girl, I don't remember her name, that she's waiting for the code to run. And then if you zoom in the code, it's just Python in the end. It's like she was rendering the image of a black hole millions of light years away using the same languages you're using for summing to numbers. So that's where we're at right now. We're in the process of, if we learn these basic tools with a little more investigation and APIs, then you can rule the world forever.
Yeah, no, and it's just like what I had said earlier, and then when you said like what I was talking about earlier with like the nuances and stuff and the terminology that we use, coupled with the hype and all the terminology that we use around the hype, like big data sounded like this scary thing. And I just want to point out what you said, Fabio, is that like if you learn SQL and you learn Python, moving over to PySpark isn't like that big of a deal. But for a long time, I know for me personally, I thought it was a big deal, and I thought it was like scary, and I was like, ooh, I don't know what this big data is all about. And then I started using Hive, which is just like SQL. And
the
I was like,
same.
oh, okay, I'm fine. This isn't
Everything is just a different engine with a different back end and the same queries.
the same.
Yeah.
Yep. Same
You know,
shit, different
and
day.
I mean, but it is all about the math. I know we go back, should you learn it, should you not? This black hole example that we talk about, took over Reddit by storm today. Everyone's like, what is this black hole? And I think what's interesting is, for those of you who are movie fans like myself, anyone see Christopher Nolan's Interstellar? That was talked about a lot today, is the comparison.
It's an awesome movie.
Right, Oscar winning, and they said, why was the movie so good? Because they hired a Caltech physicist, Kip Thorne, to inspire the black hole research. And today was just such a big day in math, because it was proven that Einstein was not crazy, right? That whatever, right? He was real. This guy did it. So, and all the data science and AI happening today is actually because of a lot of algorithms that were developed between the 1940s and 1980s, but now we have the computer processing power to work with it,
And that's why we have data science. Neural nets existed in the 50s and 60s. All of these algorithms that we've used, I mean, yeah, we have newer things, newer ideas like random forests and gradient boosted machines, but like other, there's plenty of stuff that's been around for a long ass time. We just haven't had, if even in 2010, I built a neural net on a couple years worth of weather data to forecast hourly electric load, and it had to train over the weekend. It would not need to train over the weekend now.
With COBOL.
With COBOL, that's right.
Yeah. So I think we have time for, there's a lot of great questions here right now.
Oh my God, guys, this was such a good session though. And I feel like we do before we leave. So David shared the link to some awesome resources, but is there anything else that we want to talk about in particular to, other than, of course, we also mentioned that, we think SQL, at least David and I think that SQL is I think it's number one on the priority list. But, anything else that is tangible, quick tips that somebody could leave here today and say, you know what, I'm going to start on this path using this. I know we've got a broad base, but
the number one quick tip is, if you're moving into the data science industry, whether you're going to be a coder, whether you're going to work with applications, you need to focus and stay away from the shiny object syndrome. And there are so many courses and so much material coming out online, and Kristen, Fabio, and I have been involved in many of the different programs, and we've seen a lot of what does work and doesn't work. Fabio and I spoke before the episode today. I'm going to be in Monterrey, actually working on digitalization and transformation in the Mexican government region with a lot of enterprises. And it's that no matter where you are in the world, if you're going to learn this, you need to focus. And if you take a boot camp, that's great. But if you don't, go with O'Reilly books, go with something in chronological order. Ask experts like ourselves, if we can even call ourselves experts, right? We're always learning. There's so much noise out there. And, you just have to pick a few things and commit to learning every day, and to be consistent on that path. I share my resources there. I can also share, I have the Humane podcast. I talk about some of these other topics. Kristen's featured there as well. Her episode went live here in 2019. And, it's exciting. And we'll continue on that. I think this challenge around data science is going to become ever more important every single day. Again, Brookings Institute said that there's millions of unemployed millennials, and these are around the world. This is not just the United States. This is Spain. This is Monterrey, Mexico. This is in Egypt. There are millennials who cannot get jobs, and the challenge is our world as we know it is being ripped out from under us. It's no longer a day where you can go to school and get a liberal arts degree and, oh, there's a job for you as a historian. Well, I'm sorry. Encyclopedias are not out here anymore. Wikipedia is on the downfall.
Is Wikipedia really on the downfall? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so Wikipedia's lost over a third of their contributors in the last couple of years. Their budgets are tight.
And they're always asking for help.
Yeah, and it's, it's nice. It's a generous thing, but it's that a lot of even open source technology needs the support of a community to succeed. And the reason why we keep going back to Python is, yes, it's open source, and companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Google are all committing and contributing and building it up. So it's not just researchers in their PhDs and postdocs. It's actually full-time employees at these companies building AI and data science packages and releasing it free to the public. And
these people are on Twitter and they're on LinkedIn, and follow them and build your community. And that's a fantastic way to learn as well, too, is start to, I don't know. I can't get away from data science. It's my daily life. I go on LinkedIn and I have a huge community of people that I expect to see there that are sharing their insights. They're sharing what they're working on. They're sharing the latest tools and packages. And then I head over to Twitter and I'm following R ladies and a bunch of people who are incredibly passionate about R. And I follow a bunch of people who are, creating packages in Python. And so I'm aware, and that's free, going on Twitter and LinkedIn and following a bunch of people. And, I stay up to date, and I don't read the news, but I know that DataCamp was blowing up last week, and I know, I get the news, but it's not the regular news, and I literally get it from Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah, let me answer a few more of these Q&As we have. I'm gonna do some rapid fire on some of these questions coming in here.
So,
ready, go.
I'm gonna start with this one. When you start in the software engineering field, they said it's a good idea to build a portfolio, so you can build websites, apps. If you want to focus your portfolio in data science, what kind of project can you build?
So you do a machine learning pipeline, everything from identify the problem, get the data, however you get it, if that's scraping or APIs, you clean it, you
Google
visualize.
Data set search too. Don't forget that. That's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah.
That's right. And I also link a lot of them on that GitHub resource too. But, check, get that data, clean it, visualize it, do the algorithms, test it. But a lot of people stop there. They're just like, I'm done. But if you can implement it, right? I think this question talks about a web app. Look into different web app tools. That could be Flask, that could be Python, that could be different servers, Heroku, that could be hosting an app. If you can implement the solution, so much more powerful for your portfolio. People love that. Employers will just eat that up.
Totally. All right. So let's go to a new one here. Do you think all the work that software manufacturers have done promoting their products has created a misunderstanding? I lost the question. Where is it?
A misunderstanding of data science, right? Yeah. I would say yes and no. So again, it's been a little bit of hype, right? I think data science has really taken off probably in 2017, 2018. I think before then there was a lot of marketing hype. I think it still is. Look, you have Ginny at IBM talking about yesterday how now AI algorithms can predict with 95% accuracy whether someone will or will not quit their job before they quit their job. Okay, that's interesting. Now, how ethical is that, Ginny, CEO of IBM? I'm not sure. I think I agree on that. And how many of the products in the industry actually use data science and AI today? Probably less than 5% of the products out there are even using any production on data science. I've worked with so many companies. Nothing is in production. Companies are still just trying to figure it out. Yes, maybe the US and China is a little bit ahead, but most of the world, even the US, no one has anything in production. The results are worse than humans. Some of the better results we have are typically recommendation engines. They're conversational bots, a few others. But, I think that's why companies like the one that Ginny runs, IBM, is struggling a lot. It's the IBM Watson hype, right? They hyped it up so much. They spent so many billions of dollars making it sound amazing. And all the research came out from the National Science Foundation that the healthcare results were horrible, didn't do anything. And that's it. So, but I think now we're seeing better results in 2019. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay. So I use SQL as a rounding tool to message. This is the way.
Massage the data.
Sorry, to massage the data that populate my SAP BO reports. However, out there, the most jobs with the SQL key on it required for specific SQL areas like building cubes and packages, SSIS, MDAX. So my question is, what's more marketable, a certification or building a portfolio?
I think it's interesting. Yes, you can go the Oracle and the Microsoft certification route, and there are a lot of companies that do hire in DBAs and a lot of those tracks. But the truth is, a lot of those jobs in DBAs and administrators are going away as this is all going onto the cloud, where you can just launch the different database, right? You can just like automatically deploy the cube structure and then you code. So I would say to go more the coding route and then to learn it on the cloud. So if you are one of those DBA folks today, it should be a pretty smooth transition for you.
Yeah, cool. And you certainly don't need a SQL certification. You learn SQL. I learned it on the job. I don't have a certification, but I have SQL on my resume. And when I go to a job interview, they say, okay, now we're going to whiteboard some SQL. And you whiteboard some SQL, and there's the proof that you know SQL. And I personally...
That you know SQL or no SQL.
Heyo.
That's a joke. So for those who don't know, we talked about big data. No SQL is the worst name ever, but it's called Not Only SQL, which is like the big data.
That's a rebrand. It was not originally Not Only
I like the rebranding, by the way.
No, it's the worst. It should go into repository sunsetting.
We have a big question here from Daniela. She says, so hi and thanks. I'm an actuary and in Argentina, I used to work in an insurance company. At least in Latin America, the insurance industry is a little behind in the data management. A professional speaking as an actuary is necessary to be confident in your data. This is why data skills turn into a must. On the other hand, personally, there are a lot of things to do in this area, and data impact on your daily routine can go as far as your imagination and more. She's poetic now. Right. Last year, I made a beginner course in Argentina where we learned R and Python. Nowadays, I'm reading tutorials, but it's not good enough. Then I'm looking for a mentor or a study group or both. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so Daniela, I saw you had another message earlier also that you moved to Philadelphia. So congratulations on being in the USA now. And that's, but whether you're in Argentina, Philadelphia, or anywhere in the world, the truth is you can find a mentor or study group, but if you don't set goals and objectives that you're trying to achieve, you could just keep study, and you're going to be the same place you are today a year later. You have to set goals. That's really what I think is important. So you might set the goal like, I want to, complete 3 Kaggle competitions with full data science workflows, or, I want to solve a data set from the Google data sets that uses at least 4 machine learning algorithms. You need to set goals, and that'll move you in the right direction. Thanks for that question.
Yeah. So I think we have a final question here that's interesting. Is Python plus statistics plus machine learning is good enough to have transitioned into the data science job, or do you have AI plus deep learning as well?
What I can say is that data science and AI are very much related to each other. Now, AI does not require data science, and data science doesn't require AI, but they do intersect with each other. you could get an AI job without having done data science, depending on what division you're learning, right? So I think it depends. And I know we're going to have a lot more careers in the AI space in the next few years.
I agree. So one final question from me, David. So I hear a lot of people talking about how disappointed they are when they finish a course in the way that they feel that they learned something, but they're not able to make that actionable. I mean, to really apply what they're learning. I mean, I don't think it's always the fault of their bad courses. Maybe there are good courses, but there's not a good way for you to really apply that. I mean, what would you suggest for someone when they're ending a course and they have this capstone project, whatever, to really apply what they learn in their course into their real job or life?
If you're at a current job and there is a team that works on data, if there's a community of practice, if there's open source initiatives at the company, see how you can get involved. Can you make an update for the code repository? Can you proof and unit test and debug code that's out there? If it's in your personal life and you're building the portfolio, make it relatable to you. You work in the finance industry, pick a financial challenge and take that problem and turn it into a data problem. You work in healthcare industry, you work in material science, it's the same thing related to yourself, because when you interview for jobs here, you want it to relate to the industry you work in. So I don't want to see that you have a fashion machine learning project if you're interested to work in finance, unless you're working in finance for Macy's, right? Then it makes sense. So you need to make sure you can craft that narrative and also have those communication skills in addition to the technical skills.
Awesome. All right. So this was a very interesting talk we had. I think there's a lot more things to say, but unfortunately we're out of time. We're gonna
have to have David back.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I think we're gonna have to go back here. So David, where can people know more from you, follow you, see what you're doing, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to check out more about me, in addition to the links that'll be on the YouTube and all the sources, is humanepodcast.com. That's H.
And that's a coaster, everybody.
This is a coaster for my coffee, right? So I'll send you one in the mail if you like. But it's HUMAIN podcast.com. You can hear thought leadership with interviews from executives who used to run Samsung's data science teams, AI advisors to the White House, and always feel free to connect with me. Just like with Kristen, we're very open books. I say, you have a question, drop me a line on LinkedIn. I'm glad to give you my honest feedback, tell you whether I think a program's worth it or how, the best directions for your career.
Awesome. So David, thank you very much for being here with us. It was an amazing session. Remember that this is being recorded and it's going to be live on our YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel is on the chat, and you can find more links there. So take a look right now before we go away, because they're not going to be saved anywhere right now. So if you have more questions on you want someone to be here with us, remember to talk to us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We're always there, happy to help you. And this is the way we try to give back to the world, like really bringing you the best people out there to speak about data science, to talk about what they love and what they do.
Fabio, I look forward to seeing you in Monterey. And Kristen, look forward to our next meetup.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
All right, guys. See you. Thank you.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.